Okay, so today we're going to be talking about factoring by grouping, and we're going to do this when we have 4 terms. The first thing that you're going to do is look at all 4 terms and see if there is a GCF, and if there is, you're going to factor that out. Then we're going to split it into 2 binomials. Then we will factor out the GCF from both binomials, even if the GCF is only 1. Make sure you factor out that GCF of 1. And then for your answer, you'll have the GCF, your common factors, and your leftover factors. Okay, these GCFs form one of the new binomials that we take out up here. Again, since this is multiplication, these things could be rearranged. Usually the only 2 that are these 2 right here. You can flip-flop the order of those. Those do not have to be like that. Okay? Right here below, just to make sure that I know you're listening, I would like you to write something that you did this weekend. It could be anything. It could be sleeping. It could be going on a walk. It could be having dinner with friends. Whatever you want, just write down something that you did this weekend. Okay, our first example. I've got 4 terms here. I'm going to look and see, is there anything that I can take out of 8, 4, 10, and 5? And if you're looking at your factor chart, the answer should be no. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this in half, right in front of this 3rd term here. So include that sign after the split. And then we're going to look at the left-hand side of the equation, or this expression, I should say. When I look at 8x to the 3rd and positive 4x squared, what is the biggest thing that I can take out of both of those? So if you're looking at your factor chart, what can you take out of 8 and 4? And you should see that 4 is the biggest number that we can take out. And then I can always take out the smallest amount of x's. So I can take out x to the 2nd, or smallest variable. So choose smallest exponent. Okay, now when I divide this out, 4x squared is going to go outside of my parentheses. What is 8x to the 3rd divided by 4x squared going to give me? Well, you'll get 2 and then x to the 1st power. Don't forget your exponent properties when you are dividing things with the same base. So if I have like a to the m power and I'm dividing by a to the n power, you subtract those 2 things. Please make sure that you wrote this down. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to divide 4x squared by 4x squared, and when I do that, I get positive 1. And now I'm going to go look at my second 2 terms in my expression here. So let's look at positive 10x and positive 5. If you're looking at your factor chart, you're looking at 10 and 5. What can I take out of 10 and 5? I can take out 5 from both of those. So I'm going to divide by 5, divide by 5. So I got plus 5. And then let's just divide those. What is 10x divided by 5 going to give me? That would be 2x. And then positive 5 divided by positive 5 would be positive 1. Okay, so my common factor, if you look at both of these terms here, I have like this first term split by an addition sign in the second term. So if you're looking at both of those, the thing that's in common in both of them is this 2x plus 1 and this 2x plus 1. And if you go back to what we wrote over here, that's what I mean by common factors. Okay, so we're going to write my final answer as 2x plus 1, and then my leftovers are going to go second. So I've got this 4x squared and this plus 5 are going to make my second binomial. Okay, and this right here is your final answer. If we would actually do the FOIL method for this one, where we actually create the box and we foiled we would end up getting exactly what we started with up at the beginning. So kind of cool. So we're just working in reverse. And let's look at another example. Okay, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at 14, 35, 16, and negative 40 on your factor chart. And if you look at your factor chart, of all of those numbers, is there a GCF? Go ahead and put yes or no in this space, just so that I know you're paying attention and listening to this video. And then we're going to go ahead and split this in half. So if I split this in half, and I look at the left-hand side, what can I take out of 14z to the third and 35z to the second? Well, I can take out 7s from both of those. And then remember, always choose your lowest exponent on that variable. So we can take out z to the second and z to the second. Now when I take out 7z to the second, what do I get when I divide? Well, let's start off by dividing 14 by 7. That gives me 2. And then I'm going to divide my variables, z to the third and z to the second. Remember, I subtract those exponents, so I would get z to the first power. Then I'm going to take negative 35, it is a negative, divided by 7. That would give me minus 5. And if I have z squared divided by z squared, that cancels out or goes to 0. And so I have 2z minus 5 in my parentheses. Okay, next two things here. I've got 16z minus 40. So I need to look at 16 and 40 on my factor chart. And if I do that, I end up getting that my GCF is 8. So I can take out a positive 8 from both of those. And when I do that, divide these out. 16 divided by 8 gives me 2z. And then I've got negative 40 divided by 8 will give me a negative 5. Okay, so looking at these two factors, my common factor that I can take out of both of these is this 2z minus 5. They have to be the same in order to take it out. So I'm going to start by writing 2z minus 5. And then my second factor is going to be this leftover stuff here. 7z squared plus 8. So this right here is your final answer. Again, if you were to do the box method or FOIL, you would end up getting the exact same thing that you had up above. Okay. All right, we've got one last example. First thing that we should do is look at our GCFs out of the 18, 45, 8, and 20. Is there a GCF that I can take out of all of these? Hopefully you looked and you saw that there is no GCF. So GCF, is there one? Put yes or no out of all of those so I know that you're paying attention. And then we're going to go ahead and split this in half. Okay, when I split this in half and I'm looking just at the left-hand side, what can I take out of 18h to the third and 45h to the second? So I'm looking at 18 and 45 on your factor chart. The biggest number we can take out is 9. And then always choose your lowest exponent, so I can take out h to the second on both of those. Okay, when I take out that 9h to the second, and I divide these, 18 divided by 9 would give me 2. And then I've got h to the third divided by h squared gives me h to the first power. And then we've got positive 45 divided by 9 gives me positive 5. And then h squared on top of each other, so that would be nothing. So I have 2h plus 5 there. Okay, so now we're looking at the second two numbers, and anytime there is a leading negative, so the first number in an expression for GCF is negative, we want to take that out. So leading negative, take out. So I'm looking at 8 and 20, but when I divide that out, I'm going to have a negative number that I'm taking with it. Okay, so if I look at 8 and 20 on your factor chart, you should see that 4 is your GCF. It's not going to show you a negative, but I'm choosing a negative because this first term is negative. If just the second term was negative and this was a positive 8, I would not take out a negative. I'm only taking out a negative if the leading negative is negative. Okay, so when I divide by -4, I'm going to write -4 here. And then when I divide, I get 2h. And careful with this one, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so +5. And again, when I'm looking at my two terms after I've taken out my GCFs, two of them should be the same. So if you end up getting like -2h minus 5, it means that you forgot to take out that negative. So you want to make sure that you take out a negative every single time you see a negative in the beginning. There could be a negative in the front of this 18. I would take out that negative as well. Okay, so when I'm writing my final answer, I've got my common factors here, so 2h plus 5. And then my leftovers are 9h squared minus 4. And that is your final answer. Okay, and the last thing that I would like you to do so that I know that you are paying attention, you will have to submit these video notes, but right here, I would like you to write what your grade was on your test and if you were happy with that grade or not. Okay, if you were not happy with that grade, what are some things that maybe you should do to better prepare yourself for this unit? So again, in this space below, I would like you to write what your test grade score was for Unit 7. And I would also like you to write if you were happy with that test score or not. And if you were not happy with it, what are you going to do differently this unit to better prepare yourself for this upcoming test? Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or come in and see me during DPS, before school or after school. And we will go into more depth with this on Wednesday. Good luck on your homework.